Hello guys, and welcome to round number 6 for the special event in Prague. We have actually two people who are 5-0-0, so we asked them, do you want to tie? They said, oh, let's just play it. So in theory, if they are 5-1-1, because of the good tiebreaker, they'll probably make it. But they're playing out, and yeah, there are two very interesting players.
Yeah, I think first of all, we've got to mention that we actually have a girl who's 5-0 here, which is always fantastic to see. It's great seeing more female players doing better and better at Pokemon events as well. Obviously, we had a second place player in Collinsville the other weekend, and now we have someone who's 5-0 here, and it looks from the deck list to be perhaps a 6-0. We've got Zoroark Gardevoir versus Volcanion here.
Yeah, Rosa is actually, she's from Denmark, and she won Danish Nationals, I think last year or 2 years ago, in seniors. She won against the infamous Jesper Eriksson in the finals. So she's also well known, but it's her first year Masters, and she's also doing pretty well here. The opponent is Adrian. He's actually from Poland, and he's in a team with other Polish guys. In Poland they don't have organized play, so no League Cups. Which means they have to get the championship points from regionals. We've had Polish people, quite a few of them already, to qualify for Worlds. But now it's cool. It's always cool to see, especially seeing people do well who don't have organized play in their, especially if they get the Worlds invite without League Cups and League Challenges. That makes it even more impressive. And Adrian is also playing an interesting deck. He plays Volcanion actually. So at some tournaments we saw Volcanion is always this, like, I don't know if I want to call it a sleeper deck, but it's never talked about. Like, people always talk about Zoroark, and Volcanion kind of exists, but it always does kind of well. It was top card in Oceania, if I'm not mistaken, and it was also top card in Malmö. But this is also different. I'm not entirely sure if in Oceania it was actually Volcanion or Ho-Oh, but in Malmö it was definitely a Ho-Oh deck. But it's quite interesting because yeah, the non-EX Volcanion can get a lot of energy in play, and Volcanion EX is actually able to take a one-hit knockout on Zoroark.
Yeah.
And everything that can one-hit knockout Zoroark has to be good,
worth playing, right? Yeah, I think that Volcanion's one of those decks that has been doing consistently well for the longest amount of time. Obviously, since it came out in Steam Siege, it's been top cut in events ever since then. So that's over a year now that it's been consistently performing. I think that with an ability as strong as Steam Up, it's a card that you've got to consider for everything. Being fire type right now is also pretty good. Not only do you hit for weakness against Golisopod, but there's no real big water type Pokemon in the format at the minute, apart from Greninja. And to be fair, if you're bringing Greninja to a tournament anyway, and you win, you probably deserve to win in the first place, right?
Yeah, well, we can have an argument about that later. No, but the thing is, Rosa plays Zoroark Gardevoir. So here we see the Ralts on the bench as well, and this is why Benji earlier said maybe she will be 6-0, because it's quite a good matchup. Volcanion has some struggles against Gardevoir, and Gardevoir Zoroark is also kind of a weird deck. So there are like two ways to play it. In Leipzig, for example, we saw some people playing Gardevoir with Zoroark. So they played a Gardevoir deck with Zoroark to draw cards. And then in Oceania, Todd Radcliffe won with a Zoroark Gardevoir, which was just a Zoroark deck, but with Gardevoir in it. And now Rosa plays very similar to what won in Australia.
Yeah, it looks almost exactly similar. I think that even all the way down to the Mew EX, she's got pretty much all of the same counts as Todd, the one Enhanced Hammer, the one Max Potion. So it looks pretty similar. She does have the tech of the Parallel City as well, which could come in massive handy here. Not only does Volcanion lose to Gardevoir due to it having to have 3 energy attached, but also Parallel City lowers Volcanion's bench, not allowing it to get perhaps as many Steam Ups as it first wanted, and making it a lot more of a struggle for it to be able to take one-hit knockouts.
Yeah, so Adrian only has one Volcanion EX in play, so he has to attach the energy to the Tapu Lele, but of course Tapu Lele is also not a bad Pokemon to attack with. It can deal some damage while it only has one energy attached to it, which means Gardevoir needs an extra energy on itself, which means there is a high chance for the Zoroark player to not get it. And of course there is always the chance that the Zoroark player that you're able to take out a lot of Ralts before. So this is probably what we are going to see. Adrian tried just to go Guzma for Ralts, and now for the same again. It's a bit easier. It's a bit easier with decks which can use traits, of course, because you can draw cards even though you play Guzma, which is something Adrian cannot do with his Volcanion deck. And Rosa grabs Ultra Ball for Zoroark. And let's see, if she gets Tapu Lele, usually you would see a Mallow for Rare Candy, Gardevoir, depending on how her hand cards are looking. She just goes for the Sycamore straight away.
I think perhaps to go for the Gardevoir this early on, there's not really enough energy on any of Adrian's Pokemon yet for Gardevoir to really start pushing out a lot of the power that it has. So I think by maybe waiting a little bit longer, she might be able to get more resource out of it, but then obviously she might fall into the trap of it being knocked out by the baby Volcanion, leaving her with no Gardevoir whatsoever.
Yeah, also now she can start Twit knocking out the Volcanion active. She can also set up her Zoroarks, which are also quite important. She limits the opponent's bench space by playing the Parasity here. And now she can still use Trait twice. And maybe gets a third Zoroark in play, which would be amazing, of course. Adrian is using the markers to check for abilities, which is something I also do. It's quite useful. You can just in your opponent's turn, you can put the markers on your opponent's Pokemon. So no time is lost. Some people like tilt their Pokemon. This way it's just a bit more convenient because your opponent can always do it for you, and then if it's your turn and your opponent wants to, they can do it for you as well. It's just good to not forget it. Like after you use like one trade, think of it a little bit, play a card, play N, and then maybe you forget how many trades you used.
Yeah, I think it's always important to keep track of. Lots of people of my local league have all bought Zoroark coins, and they just drop those down and they keep those with them whenever they play Zoroark decks. And, well, we see a really obvious play there from Adrian, taking a knockout on another Ralt. He knows that this matchup is going to be really hard for him to win with a Gardevoir on the field, so he's getting rid of those early on and trying to pull ahead. Because it just won't be safe for him to attach any energy onto his Volcanion EX while he knows that the chances of a Gardevoir are still there.
Yeah, but amazing that he even got 2 Guzmas and the 2 energies each turn. And also now really good for Rosa that she actually got the other Ralts. So now she can promote Zoroark, take the knockout on Volcanion, as well as hopefully this turn getting a Gardevoir in play as well.
She does have Mallow in hand, so I would imagine that we might see the Rare Candy and Gardevoir here, as it doesn't look like she's got any other supporter in hand, but does also have a Fairy Energy.
And yeah, now the interesting question is, do you Mallow first, or do you trade twice and then use Mallow? It's kind of, I'm actually not entirely sure how you do it in this situation, but if you use, if you already know what you're going to do, like, I would definitely Mallow for Rare Candy Gardevoir. But if you trade twice first and you draw into like either Candy or Gardevoir, you can take whatever you need. Or if you even draw both, you can play a complete different supporter. But if you play the Mallow first, then there's also a higher chance of drawing the other card. So yeah, I think I actually don't know, but
Candy Gardevoir.
There's always something to consider, to use all of your trades but one first before you Mallow, and then play the Mallow. Because also after the Mallow you have 2 hand cards which you don't want to trade away. But if you use trade first, maybe you draw into one of the 2 cards which you can also trade. But here she didn't trade after the Mallow at all, because for this reason. So maybe she forgot that. On the other side we see the Volcanion getting knocked out, Adrian promoting his Oranguru with the Floor Stone, which you can just put active all the time. But his hand isn't really looking good. At least he can attack. Yeah, but it seems like he's also taking with Tapu Lele.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's in an ideal place, having to attach a Fighting Fury Belt and another energy to Lele, only outputting a total of 90 damage there. However, the Turtonator does hit the board. Hopefully if Adrian... Oh wait, his bench is 3.
Yes.
So it's not even like Nitro Tank comes in a lot of handy here. He can Nitro Tank onto his own Turtonator, but no other attacker really apart from that Volcanion on the bench. Adrian sort of really needs a Ho-Oh on the field here, which he does play. That's probably going to be his easiest route to knocking out a Gardevoir, as he knows that he's already got rid of a few of the Rolts already.
Well, the problem with Ho is that you can't really use it. Like, if you attach 4 energies to it, you can't attack in the same turn. Usually there's no way to get the energy in play. He does play 3 Max Elixir, but he would still have to get kind of lucky. But if there is a Ho in play with 4 energies or 3 energies attached to it, then it's also a very easy target for Gardevoir. But, like you already said, it's the way to take the knockout. Alternatively, you could also steam up.
He won't have enough steam ups though with his bench, would he?
No, this is the current problem. He does play... Does he not play any stadium?
No stadium?
He only plays 2 Field Blower and no... oh, he actually plays 1 Brooklet Hill and 1 Parallel City. He wrote it a bit on the other side on his deck list. So in theory he can get rid of the stadium, but he has to instruct first. And he actually has a Parallel City in my hand, so my bad. Which he can use at the moment, even though it would do something different, because he would then probably play it the other way around. So next turn he just has to attach the Floatstone, probably to Turtonator, or the active Tapu Lele, and instruct and hope. But this Gardevoir is getting really strong, and now he needs to draw a lot more cards. Rosa now, I think there are 2 double colors energy card, 1 fairy. So 7 energy in total.
Yeah.
That's 210. Should be enough. Especially, I think it would have been enough even if you let the Fighting Fury Belt in play, right?
Yeah, I think with it we've got a DCE, Fairy Energy, and the 2 on Lele, with as well as the Choice Band. So a knockout there. She hit exactly what they needed there, really showing off the fact that that Gardevoir is so strong, especially with being able to draw as many cards as you do with Zoroark. Getting that Gardevoir up, getting those energy on it fairly easily, and essentially knocking out whatever she wants to knock out in front of her. This Volcanion is getting powered up now. However, it'll come into the active, and if it can't knock out that Gardevoir, it's just going to get knocked out itself.
Yeah, but it can't knock out the Gardevoir, right? He would need 3 steam ups, so he would need to draw a lot of cards. He needs Field Blower, Volcanion, 3 Fire Energy cards. So he plays N for 4. No matter how well he draws, he can take the knockout this turn. But he should get some damage on it next turn. Oh, actually, he actually got some of these cards that he needed. And with the energy retrieval, in theory, if his hand would have been perfect, could have taken the knockout. But this way is still the way to go, probably, because he just needs some damage. He can still use the non-GX Volcanion, so the non-EX GX Volcanion, to get the knockout later. So, yeah, still a good thing that he had to do. So he uses the energy retrieval now, actually, which is,
I think that's just wrong on every level, right? I think that...
Well, it depends now. If Rosa plays N, then he has more fire energy in his deck, which I'm not entirely sure if that's exactly what you want, because you have a little less chance of getting your supporter card. But on the other hand as well, if your opponent plays N, then you have more fire energy for Max Elixir, so this is something to keep in mind. And now he just goes for Volcanic Key, 190, not that much.
I think one thing that Adrian sort of might fall into the trap here is Rosa does play the max potions, and with the ability to trade into them, the max potions could come down, and obviously to get the energy back on to Gardevoir really isn't a big feat for Rosa to be able to do.
Yeah, totally 100% correct. If she gets max potion, double colors energy, fairy energy, she takes a knockout. Or 2 fire energy, it's not enough, right? Yeah. Unless she has a choice band, which she only plays 1 of. So in theory she can heal and take the one-hit knockout in the same turn. Zoroark is something which makes it possible. Also she does have Puzzle of Time.
And she currently has 4 Zoroark out, which means an extra 8 cards a turn. As we said last round with Lydia, it's just the...
Yeah, there's actually only 3 Zoroark because the top one is in the discard pile.
That looked like a 4th one. My mistake, apologies guys. Yeah, and she takes a knockout anyway, with no healing, all the way down to 1 prize. I think at the end of the day, she is going to pull ahead here to where Adrian really has to use Nitro Tank to keep himself in the game at all this turn.
Oh, but the Nitro Tank means no damage.
Exactly,
and no damage
so I
means
just don't
Rosa
think...
just needs, I think even a double color strike is enough.
And he instructs 2 Volcanion. Yeah, he scoops.
Yeah, that's it.
He scoops. Yeah, I think that, as we saw, the Gardevoir really is fruitfully destructive in this matchup. Really pulls ahead. As soon as you get enough energy on it, it really becomes a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry, I had to yawn. Don't fall asleep next turn. But, yeah, this matchup is really hard. There is not so much you can do with Volcanion. You can only attach so many fire energy before you get knocked out. And all of your Pokemon need at least 3 energy to deal some damage. And like attacking with Turtonator seems to be the best way to go because it has 10 more HP, and after attacking it only has 2 energy attached to it. But he only plays 1 Turtonator, and yeah, he has to power it up by either getting lucky with Max Elixirs or attaching it with non-EXGX. But this is so weird to say non-EXGX with the little Volcanion.
Baby Volk.
I don't like to say baby just for non-EXGX because it's still like a Volcanion. It's like 5-meter tall volcano monster.
But that's a baby, right? No, it's still a baby. 5-foot steamy fiery Volcanion is a baby.
It's the same
baby Volk.
With like baby Yveltal. It's like a 5-meter bird which can suck your soul out of you.
So the description of a baby.
Yeah, baby. Okay. Yeah, it's still a very hard matchup.
Yeah, I think that realistically Rosa's got to be happy with hitting this so late in the day. It's pretty much a almost free win here. It's really hard for Adrian to be able to play to his outs. The way that he wins this realistically is getting extremely lucky, being able to take those rolls out early on, and obviously being able to attack with that Turtonator, but his game could pretty much end straight away by his Turtonator being prized.
Maybe that's actually the reason she didn't want to tie.
Yeah, no, most probably not. Like, she probably saw this guy's playing Volk, and I know I can beat that. But obviously, by winning this round, it does put her in a position to be able to ID her last 2 rounds, firmly putting her into top cut. So that'll be a fantastic achievement for her to add to a list of...
It's only 7 rounds, right? Or
8 rounds.
8 rounds, actually, yeah. So what I said earlier wasn't even correct. Yeah, 8 rounds, so tying here doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. I thought it's 7 rounds. I apologize for everything I said. So Adrian going first this time with a fine looking start. He has 3 Volcanion in play, no Lele this time. He has the Volcanion active, he has a Floatstone. He also plays a Cynthia. He had an N in his hand, which, well, you might have think about playing the N instead, because it's not too strong to play N in this matchup in general. So maybe you want to have the Cynthia for the late game. And in this turn it doesn't matter, like your opponent has 6 random cards.
Yeah,
you only know that there's no Zoroark in her hand.
Yeah.
So by playing N, you give her a little bit more chance of drawing just like a random Zoroark. Yeah, but in theory you could save your resources.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think that playing the Cynthia was probably a worse option than the N, especially because maybe not specifically in this matchup, but in a lot of Volcanion's other matchups, it's a very aggressive deck, and it takes prizes pretty early in the game. So those Ns become worse and worse the later into the game that you keep them, and obviously keeping that Cynthia for late game could actually pay off for him quite a bit more. Rosa does top deck the Lele though, that I noticed, and does get her Bridget ready to set up her board. She's probably going to continue to go for those Zoroarks as well as Ralts, just to really put pressure on Adrian. Just to comment on his side of the board though, do you think it's correct to put 3 Volt down? Because obviously that's probably the attacker that we mentioned is probably his least favourite attacker to have on board.
Yeah, this is true, but Steam Up is too important, I think, to not just have it in play. This way he can deal 110 with even 120 with fighting Fury Belt when he uses the non-JX Volcanion. And he can 2-hit knock out even a Gardevoir in theory. So the Steam Up is, I think, too important to not have in play. Also, yeah, you don't really have to attach too many energies to it, but he doesn't have a supporter.
And he passes in, oh my gosh. And Rosa pulling ahead already. The Zoroark has hit the field, giving her an automatic advantage straight off the bat, being able to trade. We've mentioned several times today, this is why these Zoroark decks are so effective. They allow you to draw those cards without having to use your supporters, and they give you such more of a chance of hitting those combo pieces and those extra parts that you need in order to just absolutely have a full advantage over your opponent. Adrian sat there and he knows that his only non-supporter draw support is Oranguru, and that can only get him up to 3 cards.
Yeah, also what is interesting, I think Adrian has Hole in his hand, but he did not put it down because he has no supporter in his hand. So right now, if he top decks either later or Ultra Ball, he has a supporter. But if he puts Hole down now and Rosa plays Parasity, then he lost him the game by just randomly putting a Pokemon which he didn't want to have in his hand on the bench. So yeah, quite a good play from Adrian here.
Yeah, it's small plays like that that really take you from being an average player to one of the next level. You can see there that he probably thought about that and noticed that actually I really need to hold on to this and, you know, essentially leave myself room for if a Parallel City does come down. Rosa obviously would take full advantage of that, again using that trade ability. If she did see the Ho-Oh hit the field, she would most probably go hunting for that Parallel City.
Yeah, I think Adrian also has a Turtonator in his hand, so either of them would have been played out. That's something I actually talked about with some of my friends on the way here, that on PTGO, some people just seem like they always press the green cards, but it doesn't make sense. Like here in this situation, in almost every other format, well, okay, this is a bold statement, but in most situations, it doesn't really matter if you just put the Pokemon on the bench, which you want to play later anyways, especially if they're basic Pokemon. But in this special case, you don't want to do it. Adrian needs to pray, hope for the top card of his deck, that it's either Ultra Ball or Tapu Lele or Supporter, of course. Supporter would be the best, because then he can also put the Pokemon on the bench as well. So Rosa now still doesn't have a perfect setup, but looking what Adrian is doing here, this looks like the setup she really wants to have. And a Floatstone.
And a Floatstone, yeah. You can see his face, he's just looking in dismay. Really not drawing well at all here, and especially being 1 game down, that's really not what you want to happen. He does attach the Floatstone. It's probably the smartest play you can do here, moving that damage Volk out of the active, denying Rosa the easy 2 prizes next turn, but all she needs is a Guzma to pull that back up, and obviously hit it again with Zoroark, as that Ralts does have a Floatstone on it.
Oh, this time he actually puts the Hole on the bench, retreats. He doesn't want to have his Volcanion get knocked out, and he also doesn't want to have the other Volcanion get damaged, and the one with the energy, of course, he cannot put it active now. Yeah, so he decided that...
And Rosa checks his really big discard pile of 2 cards for a Floatstone and Cynthia.
So there is a chance that Rosa plays Guzma anyways. And there is also the chance, of course, that she doesn't even play the Parasity anyways. So there's that.
And the Ultra Ball, she does have the Rare Candy in hand, so I think we're going to be seeing a Gardevoir GX hit the field here. Oh, no, okay.
No, she has 2 Rare Candy.
Oh, she has 2 Rare Candy in hand, okay.
In theory, she could also just grab the Gallade, which is also something which, like the actual Gardevoir deck sometimes did, depending on how dire the situation was. You could just set up Gallade first, and then always use Premonition to get the other Gardevoirs faster. And especially with Zoroark Yeah, Premonition is really great. You can trade, then use Premonition, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You can trade again, draw 2 cards, and you know what you will draw next. So you already have more information for what you can promote. But she just goes for the Gardevoir. I don't know what's better here. I haven't played the deck myself. But
I think
she just gets some damage off. Now Adrian, I think it's a switch in his hand.
Yeah, a switch. Again, nothing that's really going to help him out too much. He can go ahead and deny Rosa more prizes, but he just opens himself more to being hit by Guzma. He doesn't have an energy to attach to his Turtonator. There's no fire energy in the discard anyway, so not even Nitro Tank is an option here.
Oh, actually, he played a... I always forget the card name. Not a Windstorm, he played...
Field Blower.
Field Blower, exactly. And, yeah, we were just talking about the whole parallel, I don't want to put something down stuff, but he has another one in his hand. So if he draws a Tapu Lele now, and Rosa plays Parallel City, no problem.
No problem
you can
at
just
all.
get rid of it. And the Galade is actually in the discard pile. So, no Premonition in this
And
game.
it looks like she's got double puzzle.
Or she just grabs it with the double puzzle. That would be cool. I would like to see that.
She's debating it.
Video game players in the Masters division.
I don't think she has a Fairy Energy in her discard yet.
So if you're playing the video game, please check your
No, she holds on to that double puzzle, puts that damage. Now the thing is as much as Adrian is denying her prizes, his board is slowly filling up with damage everywhere, and it's going to become a situation soon where she's just going to be able to take a knockout anywhere. He draws a switch again, puts a Vulcan active, and he passes back once again. It is not going well for Adrian here.
Yeah, he has so much damage. And now Rosa doesn't even need Gardevoir anymore. She just needs 3 Guzma, right?
Exactly. I think, yeah, Volcanion doesn't play any healing cards. So that 100 damage is stuck, and it is there on all of the Volcanions. So, and she attaches another DC. No, okay, I was about to...
Oh,
she does. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that Gardevoir is ready to go with a Fairy Energy on it.
So she did play Field Blower, but I think she didn't trade. So I don't know why you wouldn't just like trade away these Field Blower. But of course, again, probably shouldn't really matter that much. 100 damage on almost every Pokemon now. Here we see a Max Elixir.
And he does hit it.
Not what he wants to draw. But he can thin out his deck at this point a little bit more.
And he goes into the Volcanion. I don't think he has any way to retreat, which does open up that Volcanion to being knocked out very easily by this Gardevoir next turn. If she trades into a Fairy Energy and a Guzma,
right,
which she has.
Is there a Guzma?
And no, she just takes the knockout. But obviously, Adrian's going to be pretty scared right now that Gardevoir is there and ready to take 2 prizes whenever he wants.
So now he can Lele for probably N, I would think, or Sycamore. I don't know what he really wants to draw now, because this Volcanion will get knocked out next turn. One way or the other.
I think he's in a position now where he's just slightly too far behind to perhaps claw this back. All of his Pokemon are pretty much ready to be 2-shotted, and that Volcanion is definitely going to be knocked out by that Gardevoir. It's going to do a hefty amount of damage.
So he did have 2 Fire Energies, so even with 2 Steam Ups, Volcanic Heat still doesn't deal enough damage. He needs another energy.
Ultra Ball though, so...
In theory he can get Oranguru now to draw 1 more card, and maybe if that's an energy...
Yeah, so that's what he's opted to go for.
It. But now his bench is full as well, so he needs to get even more lucky. But at this point of the game, I think you have to just put in all of your cards.
Yeah, I think you have to go all in.
Zero.
Yeah, I think you have to go all in, right? Because he's not in a position here where he can choose perhaps the nicest play, but the Instruct only gets him a Fighting Fury Belt, attaches it to Volk, and this game just has not gone his way at all. Not even able to take... You know what would be a real slap in the face here is if she has Max Potion as well. Moves that Zoroark out, takes the knockout and Max Potions. That is going to be the worst thing possible for Adrian here.
So let's see what Rosa is doing now. She retreats, so she has half of the puzzle, or not? Or did she... Seems like she forgot to draw for a turn, or not? Well, she has enough hand cards anyway. Doesn't really matter. She has like 4 puzzles in
I think
hand.
she has 4 puzzle in hand.
I think that's the reason why she didn't trade or every turn, because she just had like only puzzle.
She has whatever she wants anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so let's see if one of the puzzles actually comes down. She retreats. And this should be enough damage, right?
Right, you want to play 150, 180, 210, 240, yeah, that's enough.
Yeah, 240 damage. 240 damage for 5 energies, still it's a lot, but 2 double colors, so it's kind of only 3 energies. Gardevoir is a really strong Pokemon still in this present. So now she trades once. And does she trade again? Maybe she probably doesn't really know what to do, because
I think she's in a position where, yeah, exactly. I think she's in a position where it doesn't really matter too much now. If she doesn't need to get rid of resources by trade, then she might as well not, because I think she's in a comfortable enough position. Obviously, her last 2 prizes are Bridget and Field Blur as well, which means all of her really important cards are still left in deck or the discard. So it's not like she's going to have to clamour for anything through trade either. So, yeah, I pretty much think that's it. Yeah, Adrian calls it a day. To be fair to Adrian, very good sport. You could see that he was very just sort of humble about the fact that he wasn't drawing overly well. You saw him say a couple of words to Rosa there, just, you know, laughing about it. It's always good to see a player be sort of understand that sometimes that happens in the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, going 5-0 with Volcanion is an achievement of its own anyway. But, you know, luck does have to run out at some point.
Yeah, so that's it for this round. It was quite fast, not too interesting. We try to pick... we can now look at all the decks from all the players and check later. We probably don't have an interview. I don't think Rosa's English is so fluent. But we will keep you updated via Twitch communication ways. So now you have like 20 minutes left. You can actually go away now to the toilet, grab something to drink, and then come back later. So see you there.
Hydration is important.